So, a couple weeks ago, I went on a field trip with my son. He's in fifth grade, and it was to a place called The Edge, which is a section of George Mason University that's out closer to Manassas, where you kind of go out for the day in the woods. You're doing the challenge course, which is has a lot to do with they have a tower there where you can do rope climbing, climb up as high as you can get. Things like go over the wall with your team, right, where you have to use every member of your team to kind of move people up and over the wall, and then other obstacles like balancing and bus falls, that kind of stuff. So it was with a fifth grade class. So we get there, the people that run the Edge actually separate the kids from the chaperones, and they bring the chaperones over, and then they explain to them, your kids are going to be doing these obstacles, and you're going to want to bend and help, but you haven't figured it out on your own. So that's a great to just sit there and watch, the young minds trying to figure things out, and they're communicating together and working on these obstacles together and building more as a group or a team as the day goes on. So I told later that they took the whole fifth grade and they split them up in groups, and groups had nothing to do with the original classes they were actually in. So I thought that was a great idea because it kind of takes people out of element, gets people learning and meeting new people, and so communicating with other folks that might have other backgrounds or skills or just behaviors, let's say. So we go and we do a bunch of the different challenge course things, and they have a guy with each team, a guy or girl with each team that is leading the teams through the exercises. They're set up as they go to do something, and will be given some very basic instructions, and then they're supposed to do it, and then have to try and figure out while they're doing it. So like one case is they have like a boat that's suspended on things, like a big piece of wood suspended on this plank. So when the kids go on, they either go to one side or the other. So they have to talk amongst themselves and get the 12 or 13 people that are in the team to communicate, so you can try and balance this thing for 5 seconds. So, if you've never been on a field trip with little kids, it's always a great kind of eye-opener to how much they're little sponges. They pick up everything. So, as a parent, I always look back at some of these situations and I think about how I'm acting and reacting within front of my kid. They always don't do the thing you want them to do, but how you react to what they're doing is about you, and it'll also kind of about them in the future. There was a lot of behaviors on the trip where the kids were overall great. When they got into certain situations, let's say, because they were under pressure in these challenges, you saw certain kids communicate with other kids, whether yelling or they get shy, and other people tell them what to do, and they don't really lead, right? So you really got to see at different times where different kids in the group would become the leader of the group, or the two, kids would clash with each other because somebody wanted to tell the group what to do and the other person didn't want that person to tell the group what to do, and all that fun stuff. So just some good takeaways from that is, think about what you're doing in front of your kids and in front of other people just in general, because your behaviors affect everyone else. So in a certain situation, you act a certain way, whether positive or negative, that's going to affect that person in that situation with you and the group in that situation with you. One thing I thought was really interesting, because I do a lot of ad type development with most of the jobs I'm in, where you have what is known as a scrum. Scrum is basically a time box with certain artifacts or steps in it, where you go and you sit down for the sprint planning meeting, and you sit down with the team you're working with, and you decide on what you're going to accomplish over that time box. So a time box might be anything from 1 week to a month. So where I'm at now, we do 2 weeks. So you sit down with your team, you discuss what you want to accomplish over those 2-week period, and also set goals for yourself and the team, depending on how the team wants to handle it. So a lot like that on this thing is you get together, there'd be an obstacle or challenge, you'd sit with the team, you discuss what they were going to do, or at least they discuss what they were going to do. We just sat and watched, right, because we weren't supposed to intervene, and then they go and try and execute that plan. The guy that was running the show, Dan, a real great guy who's really great with kids. would sit down with the team and he would say, what did we do there and what could we do better, right? That right there is basically a sprint retrospective. So, end of your sprint, you have a sprint review that basically shows off to everybody in user group or stakeholders, what you accomplished during that time frame. And then after that, you have something called the sprint retrospective, where you sits down, you discuss what you did in that time box, how you can improve, what went wrong, what went right, what are the things you should continue on doing, what can you probably change to make yourself better overall as a team, as an organization, and in the product realm. And it was just interesting because after they did some of these exercises, they would sit down and Dan would try and facilitate a retrospective with a bunch of fifth graders. And if you kind of Scrum background, it's a topic and a subject that is very hard to get across to adults in the first place. And now I take these concepts and apply them to a fifth grader to really talk about how they can improve overall as a team and as a person. So some great takeaways when it came to that aspect of it. I thought it was a great day altogether. We were for a good 5 hours. We did multiple obstacles. First obstacle we did was the tower, and the tower is basically you have, a carabiner on, your harness on, you're all hooked up, and then you're climbing up the thing, and there's nothing like seeing a bunch of fitters climb up this obstacle that is probably 4 stories high, and you see some just go up a couple of feet, you see others go to the top, if not at the top, and just test for their self-esteem. When you take a kid that's never done anything like that, and they just go 2 steps up on the ladder, or one goes 4, or one goes up to the top, it's definitely a confidence boost. And I recommend this place for fields like we were on, team building. This is something that I'm looking at for my development team, my research teams, because we share and we'll also share common experiences away from work that you take back into work with, right? So there's certain things about the way you handle people, the way you be around people, and how you can relate and communicate to other people. And it's to be outside of work and exceed these things there, so you have these shared experiences that you can build closer relationships with your team on. So it's interesting, and I wanted to share. So hope you have a good Sunday.